Well, Jeff, it's good to see you, my friend.
Absolutely, Cable. Great to see you.
So how did you enjoy your trip to Texas?
Oh, it was an absolute blast. I tell you, I have never hunted sandhill cranes before until this trip. It's been a bucket list of mine, and it did not disappoint. The trip, the camaraderie, everything was absolutely tremendous. We got a late season dove hunt one afternoon. Couldn't have been better. Couldn't have written a better script for it.
What was the travel like for you? Because for anyone, that doesn't live in Texas, you're probably, if Sandhill Crane is on your bucket list, you're going to have to fly into Lubbock, Texas for, where we hunted anyway. We hunted with Final Descent Guide Service. So you were coming from what airport?
I was coming out of Washington D.C. Dulles and flew into Lubbock fairly straightforward. Just a nice little connection there in Houston, and they had some good flight times into Lubbock that worked out tremendously. Lubbock is an easy airport to navigate, so it was pretty seamless for me.
Okay, perfect. Um, let's talk about some of the loads that we used, and we kind of broke it up. And I'm glad that our guide called me, because he was like, "Hey, make sure you have some non-toxic loads too," because I was just going to bring all lead. Because funny thing, you can shoot sandhill cranes with lead shot. I don't understand that law, like, because if you shoot geese in the same field, you have to use steel shot. So it doesn't make sense, but I'm not complaining about it, because I enjoy thumping them with lead, highly effective. But he was like, he called, actually I was loading the truck up, and you guys had sent me a bunch of lead shot and a new kind of something we were testing out too. But I threw a couple more cases that I happen to have on hand of steel shot in the truck, because he was like, "Hey, there's one field that has some cacklers, meaning lesser Canada geese, and you can't shoot those with lead, so make sure you have steel shot only for that day." So we did. Now, they didn't play ball. We had some acting like they were going to decoy. We probably could have shot at one group, but they were a little finicky. So we still got our, I think we had 4 hunters the first day, and it took us a little while to scratch that one out, maybe till like 9:30. And it was just picking off, 2 and 3 hit at a time.
Yeah, for sure. The first day with using the steel, I was really pleasantly surprised with the performance of steel on a bird like a sandhill crane. That's a little larger bird, it seems like, and so we were using our Fast Steel 2.0, excellent product all around, and I think we were using the 1.25 ounce payload. It gives you a good balance of shot and then velocity as well. I think number two steel is what we were using there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So use that the first day. Second day, no geese where we're going. And sometimes the guides do this. They'll put groups together if they have what I'm going to say is like a slam dunk barn burner hunt, where they've got 7,000-8,000 cranes in a field, and they know it's like, hey, we could do what we did yesterday, and you 4 could go out and scratch out your limit. It might take a couple hours, but or we could be done in like an hour and just have all hell break loose. And so that's what we went with. We combined with some guys from Iowa, another husband and wife and their dog from Indiana, and it was a barrel burner.
Yeah, it was epic for sure, and we used fast lead that day because there were no geese around, and so it was a mix of 2 3/4 inch and 3 inch lead upland loads, and boy, did it put a hurting on those cranes. We had less than an hour, and we had a 12-man limit. Is that right?
Yeah, it was incredible. My favorite moment was the 12 bird rain out.
Yeah,
we got 12 out of one group. It was insane.
And what was amazing about that to me is watching all the birds land in the spread and how patient they were on calling the shot. They had briefed us about how smart these birds are, and they'll just kind of hover and pick us out. And so we must have been really well hidden, allowed them to be patient, call the shot for that. It worked out perfectly. And it's almost like the 12 of us had hunted together for years. Everyone seemed to pick out a bird, and was a thing of beauty, actually, Cable.
Yeah. The hide is always a big part of trying to trick sandhill cranes to come into the spread, to get them close. And that process it's probably the thing that takes the longest. Putting out the decoys, not that big of a deal. We had a mix of well, we used all full bodies both days, but first day mix of geese and cranes, and second day all cranes. But you talk about the hide, and we were using A-frame blinds. Got to put those together. They're brushed in nicely, but then you've got to put tumbleweeds all over them. You field hunted probably up north a lot more than I have. How was this? Was this any different? I imagine there's not tumbleweeds. That's kind of a Texas thing.
Well, no, back where I'm from in Nebraska, we do get our share of tumbleweeds, but when we're hunting in fields, we were usually using pit blinds that have been dug out in the season, or layout blinds. Hunting along the field edge with these A-frames was really a unique circumstance for me. I think it was brilliant. It worked out well. If anyone hasn't hunted out of the A-frame blinds, they're really offers you a great vantage point and easy to get out and shoot. And the birds don't seem to be terribly wise to them, maybe like they are layout blinds. So it was that was a unique setting for me, for sure, Cable.
Well, and the benefit for an A-frame compared to a pit blind was, well, they're mobile. The pit blind's dug out. You're committed to hunting that spot, but these birds move around. So one day you're hunting them in an old cornfield. The second day we were in a peanut field.
Yeah. Peanut and some cotton and corn. Yeah, it was amazing, the variety of crops that we were hunting these birds in.
Yeah. So there's definitely a misconception, and I think people also associate this with honkers, greater Canada geese, that you need to shoot them with BBs, but you don't. I mean, we're using two number twos, 3-inch number twos the first day, and then 3-inch, and there was even some 2 3/4-inch shells, a case of that too, for day number 2. So you don't have to go big, especially if the birds are cooperating. I mean, if you're past shooting them at 60 yards, maybe that's a different story, but you can hammer them with just about anything, as far as a reliable, something with a good payload, but it doesn't have to be huge shot size.
No, it doesn't. And there's multiple schools of thought on that, Cable. I tend to gravitate toward the heavier payload of smaller shot. It gives you a denser pattern, so in a way you have more chances for a lethal hit. So if you're maybe a BB guy, maybe try ones, or even going down to twos. You're just going to get a denser pattern, meaning more pellets in that 30-inch circle at 40 yards. And a bird like a crane, I mean, we just watched how lethal the number 2 steel was on these cranes, and then day 2 with the number 4 lead shot, which is a great pheasant load, was amazingly effective on those cranes. And that number 4 lead shot's throwing a very dense pattern.
Yeah, there's a pheasant on the box of those.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's an upland, designed to be an upland load.
Yeah, and talking to some of the folks that were at Final Descent with us, they mentioned back in the day, one of them did, that they used lead number 4s for geese. So a lot of us, myself included, were too young to really remember shooting lead at waterfowl, but lead number 4s on the sandhill cranes, very, very effective.
As far as dove hunting goes, that's a big thing in Texas. We account for literally half of the entire country's dove harvest every year, and it's like, I think, 8 million mourning dove and 5 million white wing. It's an astronomical number. So why it's not a holiday September 1st? Like, my kids don't go to school. I know there's some other dads who pull their kids out of school, celebrate that pastime, that tradition. Is dove hunting a big thing where you're from? Well, you're from Nebraska, but you live in Virginia. So is it a big thing in both of those places?
Yeah, Nebraska it is. It's September 1. It's almost like a holiday. But usually what happens is we get 1 or 2 good shoots in, and then we have weather that moves them along, and we're done.
They come to us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's nothing like hunting in Texas in the lower 48. It's pretty amazing. So it's night and day difference between where I'm from in Nebraska and Texas. I've hunted several times, and the hunt we just had here in November in Lubbock, Texas, would I would say was better than say an opening day in Nebraska usually in terms of the amount of birds, the amount of opportunities, and yeah, it was just kind of an impromptu afternoon hunt that we did. And in West Virginia here, we've got some opportunities, but it's really fairly quickly, just like Nebraska. Whereas Texas, you guys have that opportunity maybe much longer and much more plentiful.
Yeah. I mean, I shot a limit, and that just to give people an idea of how good the late season hunt was. And then still there were bonus pigeons and Eurasian collared doves. I shot 3 or 4 of those that don't even count towards your bag limit.
That's right.
Yeah. So lots of shooting going on. I want to talk about something that we discussed in camp last week as the pressure from this administration continues to mount regarding forcing hunters to switch to non-toxic shot. And what does that look like? Because I think there's this idea that shot shell manufacturers can just flip the switch and overnight just start producing non-toxic shot.
Yeah, boy, I tell you, that gets us to a slippery slope. That non-toxic shot for everything, I mean, would be pretty disastrous for firearm or for ammunition manufacturers, just because you have to look at a lot of new technology. Steel is very tough on machines. Steel is very tough on barrels, so you need specialized wads for steel, and for us to make that switch would be somewhat difficult. And really, so at the end of the day, we don't support any further regulation in terms of non-toxic shot than what's already out there. The end user would see an increase in price for sure if that came to fruition, and really further lack of ammunition, because it does take longer to load steel. Lead's a very forgiving product. We can crank our machines up and load that pretty quick. Most major manufacturers can. Steel, you've got to load a little slower, so less is going to come out of the loaders if you're making steel. Now there's bismuth out there, but that's a much higher price than lead. That's certainly an alternative, but the end user would notice a difference in the product if further regulations came to be.
Well, and the price is the main thing that I want to focus on, because I think the goal, I don't think, I know, part of the goal is to price people out of hunting one way or another. So you're paying, and when I first started dove hunting, you could pick up a box for $3.99 or whatever.
Right.
Those days are long gone. Now it's, if you see one for $7.99, you're like, oh, what a deal. But you told me that the margins on lead, like dove and target loads, that's the least profitable thing that shot shell manufacturers make.
It certainly is, and it's just the market has driven it that way over the years, and maybe the situation here, what's happened over the last couple of years has allowed that to change just a little bit, but it's still a very low margin product for most of us out there, and even the retailers, and so any movement in a more expensive shot type would really send those prices through the roof for the consumer.
Right. So I think people need to connect the dots. So it's bad for you guys. It's bad for us. Ultimately, it's bad for conservation. And people are like, well, how could switching to non-toxic shot be bad for conservation? Well, in North America, we don't manage populations on an individual one animal level. We manage on a population level. So, and I've had this conversation with, I forget his name, but what's the governing body for shooting sports? I forget.
we would, it could be a NSSF or
Yes,
SAM.
NSSF. Sorry, NSSF. I've had their VP on, and we talked about this, and he explained, like, if one animal dies from ingesting lead shot from a carcass, that's really unfortunate. But how many other animals are saved through Pittman Robertson dollars? Yeah, and from that species population perspective, like, it's minuscule. And when science dictates that we need to change, like the California condor, okay, fine, let's do that. Ducks are ingesting too much lead, they're possibly dying. Okay, we're conservationists, we switch to steel shot. I don't see any science, I don't see any other species today that are negatively affected from dying of lead poisoning from us as hunters. So it's not warranted. And I'm not kidding you, Jeff. As soon as I got to deer camp, because I went straight to deer camp from crane camp. That's interesting to say. But there's BHA, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, posting on all of their social media. They didn't say you have to switch to lead to non-toxic shot, but they were encouraging everyone, go switch, go switch, go switch. And I expect that from a fake hunting group like them that say, oh, we're all about public lands and pro hunting, but yet you want to shoot the thing in the foot that funds conservation.
That very true. It's at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the individual to decide. There's products out there. There's non-toxic products out there. There's or non-lead products out there on the marketplace that people can choose. But we'd rather follow the science and let that take us where it needs to be. Right now, we don't think that science would necessitate any further movement towards non-toxic shot. Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from a company that probably the majority of the stuff they already that you guys produce is already non-toxic anyway.
It is. At the end of the day, our roots are in waterfowl hunting, and we started right after the non-toxic shot mandate. So that's really, I mean, we do have competency in it, but we make some really good traditional ammunition products for sure. But we don't see any need for further movement to non-lead products.
Are ammunition manufacturers united in this front?
I would hope so. It's hard to speak for other manufacturers, but I would hope so. I would hope that they would look at the science behind everything and make good determinations on what they do. And at the end of the day, it's market driven. So if the market wants to go all non-toxic, then the manufacturers will. But right now, there's still a market for traditional ammunition.
And then the consumers will end up, having to foot the bill for the increase in price.
Right.
Yeah. California has a complete non-toxic, system there. They don't allow lead shot anymore. And I think that's a perfect reason for everyone else to be like, well, let's not do what California does, because they don't do anything right. Like, they don't manage their wildlife correctly. You got freaking mountain lions running around LA because hunters, there's no season on mountain lions, yet they have to pay government trappers to go kill them anyway. So that's grounds enough for me. Like, oh, California did it. Well, I want to do the opposite. But you did mention to me that Europe it's very likely that Europe will go to all non-toxic loads because somebody said something that created a firestorm.
Yeah, I'm probably not as well versed on it as I should be, but yeah, in Europe they're going to be going to an all-out lead ban in terms of ammunition, and it's really going to impact them over there because of all of the guns that they have over there. They're side by sides, they're over-unders, fixed chokes. They're definitely going to see an impact because you're not going to be shooting steel out of a lot of those guns. They're going to need some sort of malleable, non-toxic product like a bismuth or like a tungsten that's cut with a different type of metal. And it's getting pushed on them too fast, too rapidly, and you're going to see less participation as a result in Europe. And it's something that we need to pay attention to here because that philosophy could make its way across the pond, or in a way it already has in California.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point that you brought up. These older guns and places where, you know, it's well, and this happens here too. You've got a very special family over under, or you spend a lot of money on a high dollar upland gun, you know, that's part of the nostalgia of the sport for a lot of people. And now you've got to pay $30 for a box of ammo to shoot that gun without destroying the barrel.
That's exactly right. So that's customers who are used to paying $10 a box are now going to have to pay $30 a box. So especially over in Europe when this goes down.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'll keep fighting the good fight on that front. And again, if the science was to ever dictate that, hey, we all need to switch to non-toxic, too many animals are dying on a population level, then I'd be the first one to say, let's do that. But that's not reality. So
not one bit, Cable.
Yeah. Well, my friend, I certainly enjoyed having you down to Texas. Thanks so much for making the trip. It was an absolute blast. Hope that it lived up to your expectations.
And then some, Cable.
Good deal. And I did see the video. Steve, our cameraman, sent me the video. I passed that along to you, and he got some great footage. You guys will release that whenever you want to. But yeah, there's some pretty cool footage in there.
Yeah, we'll put it up on our social media here shortly, and let everyone know what it's like to hunt sandhill cranes in the Panhandle of Texas. He captured it well.
Yeah. Well, hope you have a great season.
Likewise, Cable.
All right, Jeff. Take care.
You bet.